Howdy ho, Fourth and Trollers. Welcome back to Fourth and Troll Fantasy, the most entertaining fantasy football podcast on the planet. I go by Noah Selby.
I go by Wes Selby.
And we go by Fourth and Troll. We're back after week 3 of the NFL season. Had some exciting games. Felt like teams were scoring points this week. That's fun. That was an enjoyable time, enjoyable sequence of events that happened. And we got some fun stuff for you. We're obviously going to do some Fluke for real with you guys. We're always wanting to break down some of these performances, let you know what the trends are going to look like here and what's going to happen. Make sure you stick around. We are definitely going to be talking about a very, very hyped up quarterback coming into the season that maybe isn't doing so hot for you. So it's going to be a good time. Before we do all of that, I say all of that. I really only told you one thing. We're doing victory laps. Sure. We're doing waiver wire. We're doing Thursday Night Football preview. Cowboys at the Giants. We got everything. Make sure, but before we do all that, make sure you're following us on all our socials. Everything is linked down below. And thrilling news, if you're new to the channel, we're giving away a signed James Cook jersey this season to a patron, to our Patreon. And if you want to support us as a podcast, as a channel, you can subscribe to our Patreon. Excuse me, while I have an eyelash in my eye. And subscribe to the Patreon to be able to see me get it out later with tweezers. Good Lord. That was insane. My eye immediately was just like, get out.
What a bitch.
Yeah.
Make sure you go to Fourth and Troll. Patreon.com/Fourth and Troll Fantasy.
Yeah, the audio only listeners right now are like, what the hell are these guys doing here? Sorry about that. Go over to patreon.com/Fourth and Troll Fantasy. If you subscribe to any tier of our Patreon, any patron, we are going to be giving away as a raffle to a random patron a signed James Cook jersey this season. And I don't know if you've been around, but he's doing pretty good in fantasy football this year. So it'd be a fun jersey to get for whatever you want it for. Well, we also have merch that's available. Everything, all that's fourthandtrollstore.com. Dude, this stupid eyelash threw me off my game. Wes, there's news to talk about. Talk about some news. I'm gonna go rinse my eye out.
Yeah, that's all right. Okay. That was awesome. Okay, couple of things here with the news. Gosh, I was so excited. I was like, you know what? I'll edit that social media clip myself after all this. It's just gonna be you rubbing your eye.
Go ahead and subscribe if you want to win a jersey. God,
okay, so
like a moron.
The Carolina Panthers had a hell of a game on Sunday. Many teams inquired to trade for Bryce Young before the game, but the Panthers have declined them so far. And then to no one's surprise, Dave Canales said that Andy Dalton is officially the starter next week versus his old team, the Cincinnati Bengals. Speaking of former Carolina Panthers players, Sam Darnold sustained a knee bruise on Sunday. Should be good to go. No status changes as of now, but of course, with a hot hand that he is, definitely worth noting in fantasy. Justin Herbert aggravated his high ankle sprain that he played with, even though he was diagnosed with that before the game. He had x-rays. They are negative. We will know more on Wednesday. So depending on when you're hearing this, Wednesdays when we're going to hear more from Jim Harbaugh, and he's going to be questionable, of course, going forward. Sam Laporta suffered a low ankle sprain. He's considered day-to-day. Todd Bowles announced that Bucky Irving will be more involved in the offense and see a higher snap count going forward. Hashtag sad Rachaad White owner noises. That is something we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Najee Harris is wearing a sling on his right arm. He's banged up. Meanwhile, Jaylen Warren is getting an MRI on his knee. So keep in mind that there is another running back we're going to talk about also later in this show related to that. Cooper Kupp already ruled out by Sean McVay for this upcoming week 4 game. May not have happened yet in your league, so they've changed it, but just know that already. Trey McBride is going to be the concussion protocol, of course, day-to-day with that. And Adam Thielen, back to the Panthers, expected to miss multiple weeks due to that hamstring injury he caught on that super awesome touchdown on Sunday. That's it for the news. Now, let's jump into our Victory Lap Tuesday segment.
I wish I could victory lap this one. I was too much of a coward to say it on the show to the audience. but I spent a disgusting amount of fab on Adam Thielen to secure him because I needed another flex player this week, and I had a hunch, and it was there. And he scored 13 points in one half of football, and then he went out, and I was so sad, but it was a crazy play. Anyway, victory lap real quick, just to listen. We want to revisit some things we talked about, and not for any sort of conceited way, just to kind of, listen, we kind of got to grasp on what we're talking about here. I let you guys know, Rams wide receivers is going to be a jumbled bag of cold noodles. Like, it's going to not be a fun time to try and pick one out to figure out which one's going to be best. And it's exactly what happened. It was everyone got a little bit of work, and no one. I'm a little disappointed. No one really separated themselves a whole lot. So you're going to have a hard time with that until Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua come back, whichever happens first. Same thing here with the Chiefs running backs. Carson Steele did get a lot of work. Don't get me wrong. 17 carries, 19 opportunities. He was he did replace the Pacheco role for the most part. P. Ryan still did see a little bit of work, but again, it wasn't really anything that you wanted to have in your starting lineup. So definitely gonna give a little pat on the back there as well. We'll see how it pans out with Kareem Hunt. I've got a little prediction for week 2, or not for week 2, but for week 4 with Carson Steele. I think this regime, I think this coaching staff really likes this guy. I think they do, and I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna get this guy a touchdown in week 4. Mark my words. Carson Steele scores a touchdown in week 4. It's gonna happen. You know when you want to just kind of like reward a player for like just being like a great player, that just kind of thing. When Larry Fitzgerald in that playoff game takes that pass from Carson Palmer, runs it all the way down the field and doesn't get in the end zone. They get 3, and then he gets the shovel pass inside so he can score the touchdown there. Similar situation here. So Carson Steele is probably going to be a decent flex play. I predict he's getting in the end zone. Mark my words. Joe Burrow was my stud quarterback for week 3, 31 fantasy points. It was looking rough through the first half, and then came out in the second half and just balled out. So that was a good thing to see. And Jalen Waddle was my dud, and sad face. We will talk about him as well in our Fluke for Real segment. But less than 7 fantasy points. I'll let you know that he's averaging less than 12 with Skylar Thompson. Who knew Tim Boyle would factor into the equation here? But all right. Anyway, that's my victory lap. Wes?
You had a lot of victory laps. Well done. Fantastic work so far. Don't forget to sell high on Joe Burrow like you said you would after the week 3 game.
I already put on a trade block.
Fantastic. I've only got 2, but one I'm super proud of. I said Deontay Johnson was going to have a great season. I said he was going to be nearly top 10. I actually put him as wide receiver 9. This is what I'm talking about. 14 targets. Come on. And Adam Thielen went out for a little bit, but this is what I was sniffing in the offseason. We're going to talk about him in our Fluke for Real segment, so stick around for that. Loving it. Super excited. Pumped up for that. Taking a victory lap. And then, this is a soft one. Everybody was already saying this, but I just said, go get Juwan Jennings. He's my waiver wire out of last week. And of course, I think he's pretty good. Also coming up in our Fluke for Real segment, and that is it. Yeah. And now let's jump into Fluke for Real.
Let's do it. Yeah, listen, here, we got some people to talk about, some good performances, some bad performances. We're going to break it down, let you know, is this a sign of things to come, or is this something you need to be worried about going forward? So, first guy here, we love him. Both had him inside our top 10. And I will just, let me say, man, Jaden Daniels balled out. 21 for 23 in his first primetime appearance. 3 total touchdowns, 254 passing yards and 2 touchdowns in the air, 12 carries for 39 yards and a rushing touchdown, 32 fantasy points. An absolute monster. Now, I love seeing it, and we know this is the ceiling. Actually, no, I'm going to say this is, I wasn't going to say this was a fluke, but I'll say confidently, this is for real. Like, we can expect more games like this from him. Like, that's, you got to go. Yeah. I was about to say, well, it was the Bengals and their defense isn't very good, but they held Mahomes to 16 fantasy points, and that isn't what you want. And so Jane Daniels is a rock star. He's got some great talent around him. Cliff Kingsbury might be better as an offensive coordinator than he was a head coach with Kyler Murray. But we saw it in Kyler's rookie year. We knew that this was a sign of things to come for Jaden Daniels. And so this is for real. Terry McLaurin, 20 fantasy points. You hope they got a connection kind of kickstarted there so that Terry can continue to be very good as well. But ultimately, I'm just a little worried for the skill players that it might just be who's it going to be. We don't really know, but
yeah. And
we'll see.
A lot of fourth down conversions from Jaden
Yeah,
Daniels in
dude.
clutch situations too. I mean,
Highest
on the
completion
road.
percentage of any rookie ever. What
This
a
guy's
guy.
awesome.
Dude,
This guy's awesome.
That bomb to Terry McLaurin, the 60, not the touchdown, but the one in the first half, that's 60, or it might have been in the third quarter.
Yes.
That like 60-yarder, it was just a rainbow. I was like, oh my gosh, that's what we saw in college. Like it's happening. So it was good to see,
man.
It was good to see the playbook open up a little bit. Anyway, so Jaden Daniels, this is for real. Derrick Henry, 30 fantasy points, a vintage Derrick Henry performance, 25 carries for 151 yards, 2 touchdowns. One measly catch for 23 yards, so an extra 3 points there for you in PPR. Listen, we know he's capable, and if this wasn't the Cowboys, I'd probably be like, I don't know, but maybe they're just gonna start figuring stuff out with this run game, and they realize, hey, we're good at running the football. So let's just run the football.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's something we're talking about. But it wouldn't surprise me if we get to the end of the year and it was like, man, that was such a great, like, best performance of his season in week 3 against the Cowboys, like 30 points.
Sure.
It wouldn't surprise me if we get there, but a little pissed off at John Harbaugh for being like, we didn't bring him here to get 30 carries. And then they give him like nearly 30 opportunities. And it was like, all right, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely becoming part of the offense a lot more than a lot of other Ravens skill players suspected. Yeah. And for good reason. I mean, him and Jackson are both rushing excellently. So what's nice to know is that it's not one or the other will do great. Henry's going to have a great game. Lamar also had almost 30 points too. So this is the best of both worlds for Jackson and Henry owners.
Absolutely.
This is for real.
Yeah, this is for real. Chuba Hubbard, another one that I was one that I didn't even really say it on the last episode because I didn't realize that like he would be so available in some leagues. But another guy that I spent fab on, I rolled out 2 Carolina Panthers skill players.
You did
in week 3 with Andy Dalton, first game as the quarterback, and I put him in my lineup and I covered my eyes and I just didn't. I didn't check fantasy for the entire 1:00 slate. And I know they played in the later slate. I didn't check it for the whole 1:00 slate because I was just so nervous to get to the Panthers game to see what was going to happen.
That's hilarious.
And Chuba Hubbard, 27.9 fantasy points, 26 opportunities, was the absolute workhorse. Miles Sanders even like sharked him on a touchdown, which was so annoying. But what it told me is that was when it was like garbage time. And that's when Miles Sanders sees production is in garbage time. Why? Because he's clearly the number 2. He's the backup.
Oh, yeah.
So 28 fantasy points for Chuba Hubbard. That's probably not the norm, but the involvement and the usage, 5 targets, a receiving touchdown. Love it. And I don't think it's going to be Jonathan Brooks is available. Chuba Hubbard, you're out. It'll be a slow transition, I think. But until Brooks is back for sure, Hubbard is an easy high-end flex play, maybe an RB2 on the back end. So this is for real.
I was going to talk about that as well, that when Brooks is back, I don't think Hubbard just goes to the bench because he's been on the team for several years and he took the job after McCaffrey left. Donta Foreman had a couple of nice games, but Hubbard was the guy that they went with, and then last year and then this year too. So he has proven himself to this organization that he is a dependable player. I love it. So for all intents and purposes, this is for real. And I think you can roll him out next week. If you're hurting at the running back position, you got Hubbard, go for it. This is for real.
Totally. Yeah. 100%. Rome Odunze, another guy we're going to talk about here. Rookie, gets his first receiving touchdown. This is fun to see. It was good to see, even though they lost the game, Caleb and Rome getting that connection going. I think he's becoming more relevant a lot earlier than we thought due to this Keenan Allen injury and the fact that this team just kind of sucks, so they kind of have to force feed the ball to their best players. And he's one of them. 23.4 fantasy points, 6 catches, 11 targets, 112 yards, and a touchdown. He played all but one offensive snap. He was out there for every offensive snap but one. He is involved and he's out he's out there. I don't know if this is for real as far as like a 20+ point game, just because rookie quarterback, bad offense. Not sure how that's going to pan out, but he's not going to be in the waiver wire segment. But if he's out there on your waivers, you should pick him up. Like this is good, a sign of good things to come. Maybe it's just in a career sense, more or less. But I don't know if 23 points is definitely for real. So I'll say fluke until you do it again.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I understand that this is tantalizing, but I'm going to call this a fluke, and I need to see another 15+ performance before I'm willing to put out a Dunze to my lineup.
Yeah. Cool beans. DeAndre Hopkins, bit of a vintage performance here. 6 catches for 73 yards and a touchdown. Good to see that. 7 targets. Unfortunately, it's a fluke because their quarterback is a toddler. So I don't really know. Like, I don't. If it's a fluke, it's a bummer, and it's just going to be a toss up, and it's going to be impossible to predict when these kind of games happen. So I'm going to call fluke on that one.
I agree. Sell high if you have him, maybe, but it's a rough go.
It'd be hard to.
I mean, the Titans offense just all around is. I mean, I was actually talking to someone at work. She went up to me and she was like, "Hey, unbiased, I just don't know what's going on in the NFL. Who's the best team?" And I was like, "Well, the best teams from last year are the Chiefs, Ravens, Lions, and 49ers. They were, the ones playing for the Super Bowl." And she's like, "Who's the worst team?" And I was like, I mean, like 3 days ago, I would have said the Panthers, but right now, I don't know, maybe the Titans. And she was like, "Is that true?" Yeah. And I was like, "I don't know. The Titans may be the worst team right now." So this is partly why this is a fluke.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Amari Cooper. Welcome back to the land of production.
Hey,
that's awesome. We kept on seeing the targets. And you just wouldn't catch footballs. And then you were like, "Oh, I remember how to catch a football." And then you came out and you did great. Yeah. So it's a quick start. I mean, Brown's first play of offense, they forced a fumble on the Giants kickoff return. And they got the ball at like the 30-yard line, and first play, strike down the sideline, and did Amari Cooper for a touchdown. And it was like, thank goodness. Like we got what we hoped we were getting when we drafted him. But ends with 27.6 fantasy points on 12 targets for those 7 catches, 86 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Hopefully this is a sign of things to come. I'm gonna say for real, because we've seen it through his career that these are the kind of performances he can turn out. However, Deshaun Watson, please continue to not suck at football, because it was nice. You were doing good this week. I know it's a tough ask.
What are you doing?
It's not like, it's like, dude, what's he? Oh, come on, dude. What's he making? Like $240 million? Like what? I mean, maybe do your job for that amount of money.
Don't
but
get
I don't
me
know.
started.
So I want to definitely see some repetition here. But the target share is great, and it's good to see the production off of it. So I'm encouraged by the performance.
It's all the targets. I mean, the targets was why I never wavered with Cooper. It was a bummer to see him have low outputs, but he just kept getting a stupid amount of targets. So this makes sense to me, for real.
Yeah, absolutely. Deontay Johnson and Wes, take it away. I mean, we kind of touched on it already, but it's just an extension of victory lap.
God, so excited. I shook my earbuds out of my ear holes, dude. Oh, man. 14 targets, Deontay Johnson. And especially with Adam Thielen out, this is for real. Especially because I do not see Bryce Young under center again this season. I mean, let's just be honest. I've been hearing other media pundits kind of, what's up?
It was hilarious that Canales had to clarify that he was asked, like, "Hey, just Dalton going to start next week?" Can you imagine? He was like, "Nah, and you Bryce another shot."
Oh my gosh, 3 touchdowns in 1 half, and he's like,
"Yeah, drop 36 points." No, go ahead. No, we're going to bring back the kid.
Well, this is the point: is that even if they lost, what Dalton was able to do in the life he breathed into that offense, how could you ever turn back to Bryce Young? I feel so bad for the kid, but like, what happens even if Dalton did terrible? Then it was like, well, clearly the whole team is awful. And then now no one's going to do well. So this is Andy Dalton's season now. He's a Carolina Panthers starting quarterback for the rest of 2024, unless something crazy happens. And so for that reason, you can confidently start Deontay Johnson until further notice. This is absolutely for real.
Yeah, 100%. I'll be honest. When I'm watching this offense on Sunday, I had begun to be a little bit worried about my Jonathan Brooks claim, and drafting him and being a fan of him and what he will do. And then watching this offense with Andy Dalton, I was like, oh, okay, no, we're going to be fine. We're going to be just fine with Jonathan Brooks whenever he rolls back in. So we'll be good there. Last one here in the good section, Dallas Goedert. Oh boy, 27 fantasy points. That's right. 27 fantasy points from a tight end. Remember that happened in week 1? That was fun. 10 catches on 11 targets for 170 yards and the slowest run down a sideline I've ever seen.
They're all slow.
I was like, dude,
are so slow.
Do you want to turn on the burners a little bit? Like, this is you could get the end zone here, but he misses the touchdown. Could have been a bigger week for you. But unfortunately, to say from the on behalf of some other key fantasy players, this is going to be for real at least next week. I do not expect Devontae Smith to be back in clear concussion protocol by their next game, unfortunately. So it's going to be Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley, and that's kind of going to be it for the skill players as far as the Eagles go. And then A.J. Brown, maybe he returns, but he was reporting saying he would miss a couple weeks. So we don't really know.
I don't think he'll return.
If either or both of those wide receivers are out, Goddard is a smash play next week. Absolutely. So that's for real for the opportunity's sake, I think. But he's a tight end, so he might, I don't know, he might Hunter Henry it and score 3 points. You never know.
I don't know. 27 points without a single touchdown.
That's
Come
nice.
on,
Yeah.
dude. That is
11 targets.
Macho man. That
As
is
a tight
incredible.
End is beautiful. Yeah, there you go. All right,
For real.
let's get depressed because it's always fun to do that whenever you think about fantasy football. Extension of Victory Lap, wasn't even a part of Victory Lap here, but Anthony Richardson sucks ass. We talked about it last. Dude, sucks ass. It's insane. Like,
he sucks so much ass.
Dude, he is the fattest ass sucker in the league, bro. It's crazy. 5 fantasy points. 5 fantasy points. 10 for 20. Completed 50. I cannot. I was watching this game and I saw someone tweet it out going, either Caleb Williams or Anthony Richardson is going to win this football game. One of those two players is going to win a football game today. Like, it's just, and I just wanted it to end in a tie to just spite both of them. But I mean, I'll credit where credit's due. Williams had a pretty good game, but at least for fantasy purposes. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, where's this rushing upside floor that we talked about? It's 2 weeks in a row now. It's 2 weeks in a row now. He scored less than 12 fantasy points in week 2, 5 fantasy points in week 3. It's like he wants to turn the ball over. Truthfully.
Oh my gosh.
I think they need to have a refresher with him on what the goal of the game is, because I think he thinks it's throwing shitty passes.
The guy with the Colts helmet, you throw to that guy.
Yeah.
Throw to the guy with the Colts helmet.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. If this is a sign of things to come, if this is a sign of things to come, congratulations, Jonathan Taylor owners. Because I think Shane Steichen was just watching the ball be in Anthony Richardson's hands this weekend and was like, son of a bitch, dude, we got to get the ball out of that guy's hands. Like, this is not good. But it's what we said. He's essentially a rookie. We all got really hyped up on this really small sample size. We knew passing wasn't his strong suit, but the rushing upside is just evaporated over the past 2 weeks. And going forward, I don't think he's just like a Tyler Lockett type of quarterback play, like where it's like, well, he might be great, but he might suck. So, you just play him and you roll with the punches. Like, I think there are players that are better out there that you could play. Like, we're going to talk about Darnold here in the waiver wire segment. Yeah, I can't, unless we see some repetition going here, I'm not starting a Colts player in fantasy besides Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, this is for real. This is
Downs
for real.
Came back. Wide receiver room grew between Pittman, Pierce, Downs, and Adonai Mitchell. It's like no one even hit more than 5 or 4 targets. Like, no one hit like 10 fantasy points.
It's bad.
It's hard when your quarterback completes 10 passes in a game. Bears defense is good. Anthony Richardson is a bigger ass sucker than they are good, dude. That's so disappointing,
Truth.
man. Yeah. Rachaad White. Hashtag Rachaad White owner sad noises. 8.5 fantasy points. I'm going to talk about Bucky Irving in the waiver wire, so I don't want to give away too much right now, but this is a little concerning. Two tough defensive matchups, don't get me wrong. So I get it, but he had like 1 receiving yard in week 2, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you love the 5 catches for 18 yards, but when that only amounts to 6.8 fantasy points in your receiving work, like that's not great. That's not what we signed up for with Rachaad White.
Nope.
And he does not look good running the football. We talked about it. The PPR upside is it. Like that is the key for him. And he'll have it. You like the 6 targets to a running back, but it's like, guys, we got to turn this into a little more here. I'm not going to say this is for real, but it's teetering towards it. Like my panic meter is rising a good bit on Rachaad White.
I've located where the Rachaad White panic button is on my desk. Among all the panic buttons I have for my players, I've got it over Rachaad White. I was like, oh, that's where it is. Okay, I might need that. And I think I need a top 10 performance next week to just kind of shelve that panic button.
Yeah,
because I need something seriously great from him. Otherwise, I don't know if I can start him except for bye weeks and maybe certain matchup situations. But this is concerning. I will say Fluke one more time.
Yeah, so will I. Yeah, I agree. Zamir White, fuck you, dude. Get off my team. Like, that's it. I don't have to worry if this is Fluke or for real anymore. I'm not rostering you. There you go.
Suck my ass, dude.
Yeah, yep, there you go. Yep.
Dump your ass. Suck it, dude. Suck my ass. Get him out of here.
Get him out of here. Mike Evans, Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver. 2 down weeks in a row. Disappointing. Just over 7 fantasy points in week 2, 3.7 fantasy points in week 3. I am 0% concerned. Lions game was weird. Broncos is Pat Surtain II, who has admittedly and acknowledgeably shut down wide receivers this year. You know, it's one of those things. Good. You hoped you could have gotten the end zone, but it didn't happen. So bummer. And then Jameson Williams, disappointing. He was my stud wide receiver for week 3.
Yeah.
8 crow there. I'm not concerned, especially for next week. Yeah. The idea of potentially no Sam Laporta being there if he is dealing with this ankle sprain. Jameson should be the guy he has been for the first 2 weeks of the season. Now I get it. I get what he's been extremely boom bust his career, but it's so clear that this offense has such a plan for him, and I'm not concerned.
I'm not concerned either. No, this is a great opportunity to buy low.
Cool. Yeah, this is a fluke. This is definitely a fluke. Next guy here, hot. Rashid Shaheed. Similar guy to Jameson Williams, which is funny that they're back to back here because it's that kind of player that's extremely boom bust, and maybe the clock struck midnight and
there you go.
The carriage turned into a pumpkin. And now this Saints offense is like, hey, we had our fun in the sun for 2 weeks. We suck again. I don't really know. I think Rashid Shaheed he's not like a drop candidate. No, absolutely not. But like he has throughout his career, he's been like the guy who's like, hey man, I'm going to have you like 4 weeks this year where you're like, yeah, I got you 30 points, and this is what I do, and this is how I play. And then the rest of the weeks, he gets you like 7 fantasy points, and like at the most, and like that's it.
Right.
There's a non-0% chance that 2 of those games were just stacked at the front of the year. That it was like, hey,
it's possible.
That's just he's gonna have a bunch of duds, but I'm gonna say fluke on this. 0 catches. Like a donut, like 0 fantasy points. I'm going to say fluke. It's clear they have a plan for this guy to be involved. So that I'm going to say Fluke. I'm going to say Fluke on Rashid Shaheed.
I agree.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Past Rashid Shaheed on to, this is just kind of a grouping. Dolphins offense. Fins up. Love being a Dolphins fan. That's fun.
Best time of the year.
I didn't think it would be as bad for Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane as it was. I've got a lot of complicated feelings about how this game panned out, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
It felt like Miami was running the football really well, and then they were like, nah, let's stop doing that. Let's let Skylar keep throwing the ball. And it's like, dude, like this was a blown coverage 75-yard touchdown play away from it being a one-score game in the fourth quarter with no Tua.
Yeah.
Dude, kudos to the Dolphins defense. They really, beyond that kind of that first quarter, like for like 90% of that game, they really held Geno in check. And disappointing for sure. I'm willing to entertain selling Tyreek Hill. I'm willing to entertain it because I think the price is I think the value, and I think the down game can get you still good return, like on the name value itself. Like I'm thinking about like, would I sell Tyreek Hill for like a back end RB2 and Devontae Smith? And like, I think I might. I would entertain it. That's where I'm at. Like I wouldn't want to, but I would, if I was in a rough spot and it was like, dude, like I don't know what else to do here. Like I would entertain the idea, but the likely scenario is you just keep rolling out.
If you're 0-3, I would entertain it as well. But otherwise, I'm going to push back because in week 7, Tua returns. As far as we know, that's what it seems to be right now.
Yeah,
that's what it appears. And if Tua doesn't return week 7, then his career might be done, and then we're in a lot of trouble all around. But
yeah,
we're gonna dive into that. But you get the point. Is essentially this is because Tua's not on the field, and there's a timeline when he's going to come back, and I'm going to hold out for Hill and Achane, but I'm not starting Waddle until Tua's back.
Yeah, no, me either. I think it's week 8, by the way. I think it has to be 4 games, not just 4 weeks. Unfortunately. Stupid NFLPA. Yeah,
games?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Kinda
week
whack.
8. Okay.
But still, it's Tyreek Hill. And I know he's not thrilled with the usage. And hopefully this coaching staff takes a shorter amount of time than they had to come up with a much better game plan than they had. Maybe not. I don't want to go this far into it.
Let's just,
dude. Why
move on,
dude? Okay, yeah. You're running the ball well. You get to the goal line with Tim Boyle on 3rd and 4th down. You know you're taking 2 plays to get into the end zone. What do you want to do? How about we throw the ball with Tim Boyle twice in a row? Get your head out of your anus, McDaniel. God. Anyway, keep rolling out Achane. Like it was a down game, but he's still play. You play him, and Tyreek Hill, you keep playing him as well. Last guys here. This Baltimore Ravens tight end room: Mark Andrews, donut, 0 points. Isaiah Likely, 1.4 fantasy points. Each 2 targets combined between these two guys. Remember when we spent 35 fab on Isaiah Likely, Wes, after week 1? That was awesome. Yeah. I don't hate myself at all. No. At all. Okay. I don't.
We're going crazy over here.
Dude, this is so like bananas frustrating because here's the thing. I'm still not willing to throw in the towel on Mark Andrews. And I know that sounds crazy. Yes, but before we started recording, I delayed us because I was counting something up. And I was going, and I was looking at the play-by-play. I was looking at the play-by-play of this game. When there was when the Ravens went up and scored their second touchdown of the game, 13 minutes into the game, with 2 minutes and 41 seconds left in the first quarter, the Baltimore Ravens had 14 pass plays from that point on for the rest of the game. 14 pass plays over the last 48 minutes of the game. They had 14 pass plays. That's it. That's all. That's all they did. They were not throwing the football. They were up 28-3 on the Dallas Cowboys, who have an insane secondary, and they had momentum running the ball. I'm not willing to give up on the man that Mark Andrews is and the guy that I know he can be and who he is for Lamar Jackson. Yes, he ran 6 routes in this game, a disgusting number. 6 routes. Their wide receiver 1, Zay Flowers, ran 16. That's it. 16. Devon Achane over the first 2 weeks of the season was running 30 routes a game. Devon Achane. Okay? I'm not throwing in the towel yet. Because here's the thing. I don't even think you can trade him for anything. So what are you going to do? And all tight ends suck ass. So what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to try and Hunter Henry it and then you're going to get 3 points? Or what? Like, it sucks, but like, I don't think you can do anything about this. I think you just have to keep playing him.
Drop him.
For who?
For Mike Gesicki. Let me pull up some of these other tight ends. I mean, I'm going to pull it up real time. I mean, I know the name talent is crazy, but like Cole Kmet is available in a lot of leagues. Tyler Conklin had a great game on Thursday night. Noah Fant saw some good opportunities against Miami. He had 12 points. There are guys here. Jonnu Smith, maybe. Zach Ertz had a decent game against the Bengals on Monday night. There are tight ends that are actually scoring points.
Sure. But can you confidently, if you're looking at those two, say you roster Mark Andrews and you roster Mike Gesicki, and you're looking at it and you're going, I need 10 points. Can you confidently, based on all the knowledge that we have in fantasy football and over yes, I know we're 3 games into the season. It hasn't been great.
Yeah.
He scored 9 fantasy points for last week. And I know that's not his standard, but that's for this year of tight ends. That's awesome. But if you're looking at it, I'm going to play the guy that I've seen be the guy in this offense with Lamar Jackson. But I don't have a better solution
anymore. I don't think he's the guy.
I haven't seen enough lack of him being the guy to not being enough lack of him not being, I don't know what I'm saying. Enough of him not being the guy.
This is painful.
Yeah.
This is so sad.
This sucks. It sucks.
We have to ask. I mean, is Mark Andrews droppable?
I can't do it yet. I can't do it yet because just because there's no clear waiver ad that I feel more confident in rest of season than I do based off a poor 3 games. This sucks, dude.
This is a piss poor 3 games.
This sucks, dude.
I mean, he has scored combined 12 points in full PPR.
This sucks. Anyway, wasn't that fun being depressed about the bad players in fantasy football? Anyway, thanks for hanging out with us for that one, guys. We appreciate it. We know we went on a little bit of a tangent there. We're going to jump into the waiver wire and having a blast. Listen, this is going to be guys we're talking about that need to be added to lineups this week. If you got an injury, if you were counting on Adam Thielen being involved for your fantasy team for the next few weeks and now you lost him, these are guys that are worth maybe picking up to think about. I don't know. Wes, go for
Nice
it.
sell.
I'm
Great
just
job.
so sad. I'm just so sad after talking about that.
I know. We just talked about Mark Andrews about how this being like the worst thing ever. All right. So I got 3 simple names to kind of drop here. First and foremost, of course, go check for Juwan Jennings. Just double check. Hearing about 70% rostered around redraft leagues. Just double check because that guy's for real. This is the real deal. Debo is hurt. Christian McCaffrey is hurt. Ayuk did nothing. Kittle was hurt. This is the guy. And what we saw in the Super Bowl, this is the person that Brock Purdy's going to lean on. This was no fluke. He's the guy. Now, a lot of people also were trying to get this guy last week, found out he wasn't elevated from the practice squad, and then they all began dropping him. So I'm going to throw out again the reminder to go keep a tab on Kareem Hunt. Carson Steele might be the number 1 guy, might be a split backfield. Kareem Hunt could just show up like it's 2018, and he and Mahomes are doing incredible, and it's a wonderful reunion. You don't know, but no harm, no foul. You drop him if he's not the guy, if he's not going to get any opportunities. Maybe keep him 1 more week, but that's the idea. Now, as we mentioned in our news segment, if you actually listen to the news portion of our show, we talked about how Najee Harris is in a sling. His right arm is in a sling, and Jaylen Warren has an MRI on his knee. They're both maybe going to miss next week. So go look at Cordero Patterson. Played with Arthur Smith in Atlanta, has seen way too many carries for a 3rd-string running back. And it's not even that much, but still, he's already part of the offense somehow. They're 3-0. They're doing something right. Cordero Patterson is my very, very sneaky waiver wire ad for week 3.
I like it. 2 guys I'm going to talk about here. Sam Darnold needs to be talked about, needs to be discussed. Over 18 fantasy points each week so far this season. And he's yet to really have Jordan Addison or TJ Hawkinson, 2 big weapons for this offense, to be involved. He had Jordan Addison for like 2 quarters in week 1, and that was it. And Hawkinson will return and be another weapon for him. The running backs look great. Jettas looks awesome. I will see how long term goes for the whole season. We were more out on Jefferson because it was going to be McCarthy, but Jefferson looks awesome. Like I'm looking at it going, maybe he should have gone higher in ADP. I don't know. Well, whatever. Anyways, honestly, truthfully, I would play Sam Darnold over Patrick Mahomes in fantasy until I see otherwise. Mahomes is not the dude that like he was for the first like 2 years of his career for fantasy football, and maybe that'll shift. I thought they were going to be passing the ball a lot more, and 17 carries to Carson Steele like wasn't really the vibe. Yeah, I would play Darnold over Mahomes going forward pretty easily until I see something that shows me I shouldn't. I know it sounds crazy. Don't drop Mahomes, but just pick up Darnold. Make sure he's a waiver ad for you. And then Bucky Irving, we mentioned him already, or his counterpart, Rachaad White, a couple of times. This is more of a long-term play. I think his role is expanding. We've seen it. Todd Bowles has said it. He deserves more snaps. Dude, just looking at the eye test, he's a better runner than Rachaad White. And and we kind of always knew like the efficiency for Rachaad White wasn't his forte. It wasn't the run game wasn't his thing. It was always PPR. It was always the receiving game. And I do believe he'll continue to hold that role, Rachaad White will. But Bucky Irving leads this team in rush attempts through 3 weeks. Like has more rush attempts than Rachaad White does. 3 games into his career. He's a rookie in a fairly underwhelming rookie running back class who is coming out here and being efficient and showing he can help them pick up key first downs and stuff like that. And so this is a long-term play for sure. He may not be out there for you, but if he is, he's definitely worth a roster ad, especially if you're like a McCaffrey owner and you're just looking for someone down the stretch who maybe may do a little bit of weekly flex upside for you. So there's the waiver wire for week 3, and I endorse Wes's Cordell Patterson pick as well.
Thank you.
He's Arthur Smith loves that dude. So
he sure does. A little too much.
He's on his Christmas card. Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
talk about Thursday Night Football, Wes. Cowboys at Giants. We're going to go through our must starts, our risky starts, and our don't starts. Going to be a blast. Let's break it down for the people. Wes, take it away with your must start.
Oh, damn it. It's my week to start. And this was hard. I'm just going to be honest. This was hard because it really feels like there are only two guys that you have to start this week. Only two I can confidently say to start. So I'll just go with my man crush, the guy that I think is possibly a top 5 wide receiver on the season. And if you had any concern at all, if you had any doubts whatsoever, I'm sure they were gone after what you saw in week 3. Start Malik Nabers. He can be your wide receiver 1 for the season if you needed that. If you needed to sell one of your other wide receivers to get a good running back, Malik Nabers can keep that team going for you. He is a beast. He's an alpha. And everything I saw in the offseason, in the videos that maybe some of you saw as well, no joke. I love the guy. Keep rolling him out. No questions asked. He's a lock in your lineup.
Absolutely. 30 targets over the last 2 weeks, 18 catches, over 28 fantasy points in each of his last 2 games. Not only does he have top 5 upside, West, after 3 weeks, he is the wide receiver 1 in fantasy football. You can
I'm
take
going
that
to take
one.
a victory lap
Yeah,
Friday
you are,
show.
dude. Yeah, you are, dude. It's going to be a blast. My must start here. Listen, I was a week early, and I was worried, and I said he was a dud last week, and he was an absolute stud. My must start for Thursday Night Football is Dak Prescott. I want to revisit this and come back to. I said last week, when he takes off, when he arrives, it's gonna go quick, and it's gonna be like rapid fire. And it was last week that was when the arrival happened. He had been really disappointing, but over 33, I believe, fantasy points this week, this past week. Also, the Cowboys are just pissed off, dude. Like, they don't like losing. I don't know if you saw the clip of him in the tunnel, of Dak in the tunnel after the game, but he was like, doing that whole thing when you're like so pissed off that you're kind of like just talking to yourself as you're like walking, like you're like kind of like shaking your head and that sort of thing. I think it was like, I said something like keep that energy or something like that. And listen, Deshaun Watson just had over 20 fantasy points against the Giants. So Dak Prescott, I just want to come back to it. I know last week I said dud. I was wrong. 8 crow there. And he's a must start on Thursday night against a pretty poor Giants defense.
I wonder what the Cowboys are going to do when they lose to the Giants on primetime. I wonder how they're going to feel.
Probably bad things.
Probably bad things. All right,
hate
risky
to be a
starts.
Burger King in Dallas.
So
risky
random.
Starts. Yeah.
All right, risky starts. The opposite quarterback in this game. Daniel Jones had a hell of a week. I see that as a risky start. I get it. There's a little bit of concern as to what you want to do with a guy that got 23 points and 6-point passing, but the rushing upside is there. It's what we like. 5 rushes, not a ton. But this Dallas defense, we give a lot of credit to what they have done last season. We consider them to be one of the top 10. I don't know. I don't know just yet if they are a top 10 defense this season. Now, they have a lot of star players, and I think we'll find out. But as long as Malik Nabers is there and healthy, and Daniel Jones threw 2 touchdowns, both to Malik Nabers. So I think that combination is going to keep him at a really good floor. If you're really concerned about your quarterback, you don't know what you're going to do. If you're one of the weirdos that drafted Trevor Lawrence and you're like, I have no idea what to do. Daniel Jones is there. Daniel Jones is there. He's my risky start for the week.
Yeah. I hate Daniel Jones, but I like what he does for Malik Nabers. So there you go. There's that.
You hate him? Fun.
My risky start is my dude, Jake Ferguson. 15.5 fantasy points in his return from an MCL sprain. 11 targets, led the team. A little concern, but I think I can attribute it to he was coming back from injury. He was splitting a little bit of time with Luke Schoonmaker. I do believe it was just because they weren't trying to give him a full rollout in his workload right there, especially when they were down like 28-3 at that point. Here's the risk: all tight ends suck, so that's the risk.
True.
But I like Ferguson this week. And I think he's Dak Prescott likes him too. So he's my risky start, but it's more just leaning on the erring on the side of caution there because tight ends just suck. So if your options were play a tight end in your tight end slot or don't, I would, believe it or not. And I would play Jake Ferguson. So there you go. That's my risky start.
This show is full of such sound and remarkable advice.
Write that down. Write that down.
Start him. Don't not start a tight end. Fourth and Troll Fantasy. Patreon.com/Fourth and Troll Fantasy.
Yeah.
All right. My don't start. Let's get into the don't starts. There are a lot of players that are at most risky start and a lot that I would even consider don't start. And I really did not know who to choose that I think is even worth noting until, yes, don't start Rico Dowdle. Let's just call it. Let's call it. Okay. Never had double-digit carries this season so far. Never had even 50% snap count so far. Let's just call it. Do not put him in your lineup. That's not the way you want to start your week. And he is not being efficient with the football anyway, if he does even get the football. So let's put the panic button all the way down. Press it. Rico Dowdle is not your running back. Don't start him.
Yeah, I think Dallas is just realizing what they realized like after week 5 last week, but they're now realizing it in week 3 is like, just stop trying to run the ball. Like just let Dak and CD and Jake Ferguson do their thing and yada, 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 whatever. My don't start is running back on the other side there. Devin Singletary. Listen, I've been a little bit impressed with the floor that Devin Singletary has brought to fantasy football teams with a little bit of upside for like this past week against the Browns, 18 fantasy points. Here's the thing. As I mentioned, they be pissed off in Dallas. Them boys is pissed. And they want vengeance after Derrick Henry just clobbered them on the ground. And I believe they are going to come out swinging on that run with that run defense. And I do not believe Singletary is going to have a usable week for fantasy football. Pair that with Tyrone Tracy Jr., a guy we talked about in the offseason. His role is expanding. He is slowly seeing more and more snaps, and he will take over that pass-catching back role at some point here shortly. So he's a guy to have a little bit of concern with as well when it comes to Singletary's upside. But that's it for Thursday Night Football, and that's it for the episode. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. And remember to go to our Patreon, patreon.com/Fourth and Troll Fantasy. We're giving away that signed James Cook jersey to a random patron this season. It's going to be a blast. If you're already a patron, you are eligible as well, just to let you guys know in that crowd. Let's get to it. Make sure you have a troll smile by liking, subscribing, ringing the bell. And we will see you guys on Friday for some week 4 studs and duds. It's going to be a blast. My name is Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And this has been Fourth and Troll Fantasy.
Fourth and Troll Fantasy is a production of FQ Media and Selby Artistic Workshop.